Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a great day. Welcome back for another Q&A video. I'm shocked at how many emails that I've actually gotten and how many questions, but please continue to send them in. I do like answering your questions. As always, this must be stated. The opinions expressed in this video are my own and should not under any circumstances be taken as legal, tax, and or investment advice. Also try to include nothing personal about yourself in the actual thing as far as like what you're holding and how much you have as a just in case. And if you can, please keep your questions to around like this size. That would be absolutely wonderful. Also, another side note, please be aware that as I am not a tech genius and I don't exactly know how to do this, or if there is even another way to do this, when you send me an email, your email name and stuff like that will appear over here in the video. So in case you do not want people to see that you see your email or see your name that could potentially be linked to it, then maybe create a Proton Mail account simply just to kind of get around it so that people, can create a whole new one or just use a secondary email. I saw someone else mention this in another video, asking me not to show his email. I logically have no idea how to not to do that, unless I'm creating like a completely different type of video. Anyway, the point is, that is what you should or should not do. Anyway, first email up is, it says, if you were to invest 10,000 euros and or dollars on 5 altcoins, which coins would you choose? That is quite a difficult question, simply because I believe in more than 5 coins. If I can be 100% honest, I'm going to say, as far as like 5 coins, in 100% honesty, it would be Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, EOS, and Cardano. I mean, realistically, that's just kind of how I would spread it out. I'd probably even to be truthful, I want to say I'd even spread it like 40% of it would go into XRP, because I firmly believe that XRP is probably going to be very strong in the future. I'll kind of say it that way, but 5 is very difficult. I don't know if let's say, 5 is just so difficult, especially with 10,000. Me, myself, personally, if I had to spread it out across 10 of them, actually, hold on. It says, okay, 5 altcoins. Let's actually go with altcoins instead. I would still get 0.01 Bitcoin as a just in case, as a, strong just in case. Anyway, the other 10 altcoins, I would probably do Ethereum, XRP, EOS, Stellar, Cardano. I'm counting on my fingers. I'm torn between Monero and Dash just because things. Number 6 would be IOTA. I would say Neo. I don't think Neo is going anywhere anytime soon. I want to say VeChain. Omise Go, definitely Omise Go. And the last one would probably have to be like BAT, or maybe even like between BAT and Golem. When Golem does actually complete their entire thing that they're trying to do and they do become a world supercomputer, I definitely think that Golem is going to have a very bright future. 5 coins is very difficult. I didn't think that question would be that hard as I was reading through it. Definitely I believe in more than 5 projects. If I had to choose the 5, it would definitely be Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, EOS, and Cardano. And ironically enough, Stellar would have been the number 6. But as it was top 5, I had to leave Stellar at least out of that equation. It says, hello, I really enjoy your videos on a daily basis. Thank you very much. You often refer to crypto podcasts in your videos. Can you please tell us which ones you listen to or would recommend to your viewers? So I made a video about this before. I don't know if you guys saw it. And I mean, I really don't expect a lot of people to go digging back through my older videos in order to find a video that I made about podcasts. So as a future update, I guess, because a lot of people have been asking, every other video, I get a couple of people asking me about the podcast stuff. I use an app that is called, where is it? Podcast Go. It says $2.99. I definitely did not pay $2.99. It was free on the Google Play Store. That's how I got it. And even as far as like ads and stuff, I haven't really seen any ads. Maybe I'm just lucky. I don't even know. It has a lovely layout. I think it's really nice. It's very simple to use. Everything is kind of just there exactly for what you need. As far as like the actual like apps themselves, I have to get my mobile. 1 second. The first thing, hold on, sorry, I'm all messed up. The first thing I would say is there's one called the Trader Cobb Crypto Podcast, and that is Cobb with COBB. It's pretty okay. He talks to, I think he himself was a trader or something like that, and he talks to other people around the world, about cryptocurrencies and where they think the trends are going. Another one is called Chat with Traders, TRADERS. That one's also pretty okay, but sometimes like it's kind of split between like 10-90, as in like 10% they'll actually talk to people who are in the cryptocurrency space, and the other 90% they talk to people who are trading like Amazon or Nike or other stocks like that. And I'm not so into the traditional stock market anymore, so sometimes I do have to skip over episodes. Another one is called Crypto 101. I definitely like their format. They're one of my favorite ones, if I can kind of say that. Flippening is also another good one. It's spelled exactly how it sounds. Flip, pinning. I assume it was originally about the idea of the flippening, where Ethereum would flip with Bitcoin and become the number one coin. But now they just cover like more like crypto related topics, and I definitely like their format. My favorite, I would have to say, is one called Unconfirmed by it's a woman named Laura Shin, LAURASHIN, 2 separate words. She's relatively like soft spoken on her podcast. But the people who she has on, like, they're really amazing people, and she makes sure to get like some of like the heavy hitters who are actually in the traditional financial industry, and she talks to them about like what's the future of this. Like she had an episode where she was talking to like a future not a financial planner, but like a wealth management agency or something like that, and she was asking them like, do you see trends as far as like, many years ago people maybe wanted to invest in like in places where they could create wine, or like groves, or this, like that, or like what if she said, and like they'll talk to the people and they're like, yeah, everything is just crypto now. Like these people are constantly coming to their wealth managers, is asking them, put 5 million into this, put 4 million into this, like do this, and they sometimes they have no idea really what's going on, so they try to dig deeper into the space themselves. But like Unconfirmed is probably one of the most professional out there. Another one that I would also suggest is one called ICO Alert. They are heavily focused on EOS. I started listening to them before the EOS platform actually launched. Sometimes they can be a bit biased. Sometimes they'll talk down about Ethereum, or they'll talk down about XRP, or they'll talk down about how slow Bitcoin is. It's clear that they're there to just exclusively talk about EOS. I don't really hear them talking about many other platforms. But I mean, if everyone has their own thing, like there are other crypto channels that are exclusively about XRP, or that are exclusively about Cardano. So everyone has their own little method for what they want to do. Those are the only ones that myself that I actually listen to. There aren't many. I tried listening to about 15 more. They either don't post, not even every day, they don't post weekly. Some of them post maybe once a month, and it's like, yeah. Some of them are a little bit too bro for me. There was one, it was like 4 guys sitting down drinking beers, and instead of talking about crypto, they were talking about like girls who they were with the night before. And I'm like, that's wonderful, but I'm here to make money, not hear about like what party you went to the night before. They would talk about crypto for about like 8 minutes, and it was like an hour and a half podcast. So I definitely skipped over that one. But these are the podcasts that I actually listen to on at least a daily basis. They don't actually Planet, right here as well. Planet Money is also a really good one. It's an NPR one. They talk about like emerging trends in finance. It's also a very good one. And there's also another one from the Wall Street Journal. In any type of, especially if you're on this app, you can just type in WSJ, and they'll pop up like on the search bar somewhere around here. And there's like it's called the Wall Street Journal Money Briefing, and then the Future of Everything. And the Future of Everything, they tend to deal with like tech and AI, but a lot of times they'll actually talk to people who are into traditional finance as well, and like the emerging landscape of cryptocurrencies, dealing with the future of everything. So that's also something to definitely look into. I hope I answered your question. This one says, my question is, when thinking about the beginning of the internet in the late 90s, there are a couple of really major companies that took over entire markets, like Google and Yahoo. Do you think these type of companies that will take up the entire markets exist today in the blockchain sphere? What type of companies or industries do you think will be the biggest in the crypto, let's say 20 years from now? Okay, 20 years is a long time. BTW, can you tell us your name? I do not have a name. My name is The Modern Investor. Awkward. So as far as like big companies, I want to say, and these are just how I like look at things, I'm going to say Coinbase is probably not going to go anywhere. If they're going to be around in 20 years, that's still up for discussion. Let's say like 10, 12, 13, 14 years. That seems a bit more conservative for me. Let's say 10 years, 10, 12 years. I don't think Coinbase is going anywhere. I think what they're doing right now and what they're doing behind the scenes is making sure that they solidify themselves permanently as like a major name in crypto. I'm going to say, I don't think, I would say IOHK, the people who created Cardano, who are behind the creation of Cardano, I don't think they're going anywhere like at all. So I could definitely see them being maybe they might branch out a bit more, like spread into something else, but I think IOHK will definitely be there. Ripple, I don't think at this, I mean, if you think that Ripple's going somewhere after having partnered with 200 banks around the world and 50 central banks, you got another thing coming. I can definitely see Ripple being like, people compare Ripple to Google now, I think, as well, as like, I think it's just because they're like the largest. We may have other bigger things in the future, but as of now, Ripple's kind of like the most well-known. They made themselves like, they go on like TV shows and like donate XRP and stuff like that. Like that's how you kind of get people to flow to your side. I don't see Ripple going anywhere. The Ethereum Alliance, I can definitely see them becoming like a massive entity. For those who do not know what the Ethereum Alliance is, you can actually Google it. If you like Google like Ethereum Alliance, I think it's called the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty much a consortium of like 120 companies who have come together to pretty much say that they're going to either use the Ethereum blockchain in some sort of capacity, or that they are there to further the usage of the Ethereum blockchain and or the token itself. There are a lot of like banks who've joined with them, and don't assume that just like one bank or one entity is only joined with like one company. They tend to like latch on to like 5 or 6 other coins or projects because they want to have multiple streams of income when it comes to crypto, if you will. I don't think the Ethereum Alliance is going anywhere anytime soon. Some potentially like unnamed STO company, as far as like ICOs, are expected to completely flounder and disappear within the next couple, like not even years, like months. So some company that deals in like security tokens, like if we end up having a platform like Coinbase, kind of, which Coinbase is trying to do, that becomes like the go-to hub as far as like where to deal in your security tokens, they're probably never going to go anywhere because there'll be too much money built on top of them. Like if Coinbase starts accepting securities and security tokens are maybe even built on top of not their framework, but like, like they're like the go-to place, kind of like the stock exchanges or whatever. I think Coinbase would probably be around forever at that point. And realistically, I'm going to also say, I think like the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, what they've been doing as far as like making sure that they're going to trade crypto and that they're in the crypto space, I can definitely foresee them not ever leaving it. Will they be as large as they are now? Potentially. I could see something like branching off from them. Like I could see them creating like Bakkt. I could see being like its own mega corporation, like falling off from the branches and then like kind of growing off on its own, and that being like a new thing in the crypto sphere kind of thing. Another thing that I'll point out is even if you look at the internet in the especially late 90s, let's say 97, 98, 99, there was a lot of people who not only thought that the internet, not the internet, like the websites or whatever would never collapse, but also there were a lot of very big names that people just didn't logically see ever going away, like pets.com. Like that was seen as like, realistically, if you have a website called pets.com and they deal in pets and many people around the world have pets, you don't typically see something like that ever disappearing or leaving. So no one really ever really knows exactly what's going to happen when it comes to all of these things. But I think a lot of the names that we already see in cryptocurrencies have definitely solidified themselves. As long as they continue on this march forward and do exactly what they need to do in order to not only appease investors, but also to make sure that they're constantly out there so that they don't become irrelevant. I think the ones at least that I listed, I think we're probably not going to see go anywhere anytime soon. And there could even be a couple of like smaller ones that we just even don't really pay attention to, like Google and Apple weren't really paid attention to in the 90s, if you don't know that. Same exact thing with Amazon. When Amazon first started, people were like, who wants to buy books, like who wants to buy a Kindle? Like it was all these like really crazy things. And now these are some of the largest companies in the entire world. So we could have a lot of stuff coming from left field and end up becoming some of the largest companies or entities that we have on this planet. Kind of crazy. Next up, it says, what coin do you see as having the greatest growth potential in the next few days? Okay. Does XRP still have some momentum left in it, or is the pump over? Maybe EOS, Litecoin, Ethereum, Tron, Cardano, Bitcoin Cash, or maybe Bitcoin itself. As always, appreciate what you do in the space. Thank you very much. Next few days, that's a little, it's kind of cutting it close. I don't even know where I'm going to be in the next few days. Hey, I can give you like weeks. As far as days, like realistically, somebody could move like 30 Bitcoin and then cause the market to crash, because every time somebody moves Bitcoin, people lose their minds. Growth potential next few days, let's say weeks. To be 100% honest, how I feel after looking at a couple of things, the pump that XRP had, that swapped it into the number 2 spot, I think was a mixture of FOMO. It was it's people not trying to miss out on this speculative market. I think if we saw a pump like that with just expectations or the idea that XRapid is going to be launched very soon, I can definitely see this continuing. Make no mistake, when XRapid is actually turned on, the hype that is going to surround XRP is going to be something like we've never seen before in especially a very long time. Simply, this has been spoken about for around 2 years. So the pump that is going to happen from this actual listing, XRapid getting turned on, is going to be monumental in the next couple of weeks. For those who don't know, if you like, even like it says, like the last 7 days, XRP had a huge run up and it actually dragged a lot of the market with it. I'm going to assume that the same exact way that XRP shot up, I would say that Stellar's probably also going to deal with this as well, and probably Cardano. For some reason, they don't follow each other, but they're very like closely tied whenever like a pump happens. Unless we get some type of like really major news in the next couple of days, I think everything's going to kind of be the same. You know, there's not really much that we're expecting from EOS in the next couple of days or weeks. Litecoin, I know they had the Litecoin summit and stuff like that, but you need like a working thing to actually move forward. Unless we get news in the next couple 4, 5, 6 weeks that someone has a proper scaling thing on Ethereum, I don't see a major pump happening. Tron doesn't really move that much unless there's like some type of a hype, and then it goes up by around 5% and it kind of slinks back down. Same exact thing with all the other coins. Like we need some type of, the only thing that I can think of that's happening in the next couple of weeks that we more or less quote unquote kind of have confirmed from the team is XRapid launching. I know that something is happening with Cardano. I think like isn't not their mainnet. Like their proof of stake is supposed to also be happening relatively soon. This is why I kind of said weeks. That could be a significant, like when people finally have confirmation that not only is their proof of stake happening, but that it works. That is going to be a major, major pump in price. That's at least how I look at it. But as far as the next couple of days and or weeks, right now my bet's on XRP, simply because no one, even you can hate XRP to the heavens, you are not going to want to miss on any potential type of gains, especially when you have 84% over the last 7 days. That's insane. Bitcoin Cash had 4%, EOS had 6%. No one's going to want to miss out on that. If we get, there was also like type of news like floating around that they think, a lot of people think that, like I was saying before, that XRapid could have potentially already been turned on, but only certain entities have been given like a thumb up to kind of flip their switch as well, just to make sure that everything is, flowing slowly. Because like I said before, XRP had like the volume that was flowing through it was like 180 million at a certain point. It wasn't really going nowhere. And then by the time this happened, it popped up to around like 1.8 billion. So when we actually have volume flowing through, sorry for the long explanation. My bet's on XRP next couple of weeks. Unless something significant happens, I think XRP is probably going to be the most hyped up, don't miss out coin by the time like the next 28 days happen. That's at least kind of how I myself see it. Next one says, question please, are you a reseller of the Ledger Nano S? No, I am not. Great job using Proton Mail. I love it. I'm a law-abiding citizen, have nothing to hide, but I did not sign a waiver of Bill of Rights to be spied on without a warrant. Like what is happening with Google and Yahoo? Yeah, what's been happening with Google and Yahoo, for those who aren't paying attention or haven't seen recently, is kind of insane. Between Google, Yahoo, and Facebook, it's like this almost like unholy trinity of what's like the news that we're getting about how much information that they're actually taking from people and storing. There was a documentary a couple of weeks ago, and there was someone from one of the, who used to work for one of these companies, and they were asking them, they said, how much data do they have? And they're like, there's a reason why these companies continuously expand and buy more land, because there's just computers filled with everyone's data. And they said they probably know more about you than you actually do yourself, simply because of how much they've been collecting from you for years. And this is, it's a little troubling. Anyway, the point is, the question was, are you a reseller of the Nano S? No, I am not. Just a quick side note, you should probably never buy a Ledger Nano S from a reseller. There was news a couple of months ago that people were buying repackaged Ledger Nano S's on eBay from resellers, and the resellers had tapped it in a certain way that the moment you plugged it into your computer, they actually had your private key. So people were putting 2 or 3 Bitcoin onto these Ledger Nanos, Ledger Nanos, my gosh, this machine. They were putting their money on there, and the people who had their private keys were taking their money from it. So never buy from a reseller. Buy directly from the website if you can. That is typically the safest way. Everyone's trying to get one over on people, so make sure that you get it from an actual trusted seller, and the actual company does continue to sell them, so try and get yours that way. Next question. First, I really enjoy what you do. Thank you for your time. In your opinion, do you think XRP must see adoption by the majority of banks before we can achieve a fair, stable price? Perhaps I'm missing something. Volatility in price is of no concern to the bank adopting XRP. I'll try and move backwards. No, the volatility in the market is actually of no concern at all when it comes to XRP or XRapid. The Ripple team has said many times on different interviews and stuff like that, or when they're sitting on panels, they said that because of the transaction speed between 3 to 4 seconds, there is no real risk of volatility inside the market. And once they have Cobalt actually built on top of it, and the other expanding things that they plan on doing in the XRP network, and transactions are only 1 second, there isn't enough time for the banks to actually care about any type of volatility in the market. People have also been mentioning in the comment section, I haven't had the time, this is why I do these videos, to answer the questions. People were falsely stating that banks need the price of XRP to be low in order to want to deal with it. That's like the falsest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You need not only a high volume, you need a huge amount of liquidity, and a higher price means that less of it has to actually be sold off. Like, i.e., if let's say you're trying to sell $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is worth 10,000, and you sell one complete Bitcoin, but if Bitcoin is worth 10 million, you only have to sell a small fraction of it. Like, that has nothing to do with, like, the price can be low or high. It doesn't really matter at all. But ideally, if you are a bank that's dealing in XRP or XRapid, or you are holding the asset yourself, you probably want the price to go high. I don't know where people are getting the idea that banks plan on dumping their XRP, or that banks want the price of XRP to be around 10 cents. That's a complete lie. I think people are so concerned with trying to smear Ripple and XRP that they're looking for any type of lie to kind of say anymore. People have completely lost on the entire decentralized bankster, all these other things, or that the banks or institutions will never use XRapid or XRP. Since that's all been thrown aside, because we know that's all false, they're now talking about that prices of XRP have to be low in order for banks to use it. That's a complete lie. In your opinion, do you think XRP must see adoption by a majority of banks before we achieve a fair, stable price? This kind of goes for every single digital asset that we have right now. If you want a stable price, there needs to be a massive amount of adoption for it, in that if we have people all around the world using Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's price hits around $1 million, this will be in, the levels of stability that we will have on that asset will be unprecedented. Like the price will probably, like I was telling you before, it's predicted by 2022, 2023, price movements in Bitcoin daily or even weekly, maybe around like 1 to 2%. And that's going to like make headlines because of how stable the prices are going to be. I don't think once we have realistically, if Garlinghouse was correct and dozens of banks are going to be using XRP in 2019, at some point, logically and mathematically, based on the amount of volume that we're going to have, the price of XRP is going to completely skyrocket, and at a certain point is going to stabilize. If you are a bank and you are, let's say the banks around the world, let's say on a daily basis, if we have dozens of banks and they're dealing with, let's say, $800 billion worth of volume flowing through them every single day, and that doesn't really fluctuate that much. This will probably give way to some type of price fluctuations in XRP. But even, when you have to think about this, why I would say think about the larger picture. The adoption by even like a couple of banks and using XRP will not only bring the price up, but the price will stabilize to a certain point. Like it won't like freeze, and it's not going to hit 100 and then like it's there forever. No, like it'll continue to move up as more banks and more money ends up being pushed into the system and stuff like that, and especially as the coin burn ends up happening on the network. But there will be eventually a point. It's believed that in crypto in a couple of years we're going to have a crypto will be like currency. Like it'll be stable to a certain degree. Like it'll maximize, hit a certain point, but the price movements won't be as large, but it will be 1 to 2% price movements either up or down. But we probably will not see. This is why I said, like, if you're into crypto right now, you're very lucky, because we are not, in a couple of years, we are not going to see things like this anymore. It's going to be impossible when you have trillions in the market. Things don't move as quickly. Like if someone could sell 100 million worth of Bitcoin, and it'll maybe have almost no effect on the price simply because the market cap will be in the multiple trillions. Like you will need a lot of movement in order to be able to move the price up or down. Next one says, I have been an avid listener of your videos for about a year now and have found it very informative. Thank you very much. I have 2 questions. For certain coins, how do you come up with future price predictions? I want to be able to do this to determine if a coin is worth investing. From what you've stated in previous videos, you are also an investor in real estate. How did you get started? And do you have any suggestions for the beginning investor? Okay. So for certain coins, how do I come up with price predictions? I used to look at websites. I used to like try and gauge exactly to see what other people were saying. But a lot of the price predictions were just completely out of control to be, the craziest ones, like XRP like 10,000 or Bitcoin hitting 100 million. I think numbers like that are like, we need to be in like the year 2035 or something like that. It has to be a very far place away. When it comes to what I look for prices, first of all, I gauge the past, i.e. I think if Bitcoin hit 20,000 before, it's definitely possible. If XRP hit $3.60 in 2017 before XRapid was turned on, it's typically safe to say that another 300% increase, let's say to an XRP price of like $10, is also fairly believable. This is kind of how I gauge things. I try to be conservative as possible. I'm never going to tell you that I think XRP is going to hit $38,000 or something like that. If Ethereum hit 1,300 before during our last run up, before Ethereum had Plasma and sharding and Casper and all these other things, it's fairly safe to say that 1,300 at least is going to be achievable again as we got there before. And realistically, going from 1,300 to around 4,000 per Ethereum, especially if we're getting price predictions for Bitcoin being in 100,000, I think is fairly, I want to not optimistic, but like it's an okay level to kind of say things. You gauge the past to see where we could potentially go into the future, because especially prices are so low right now. It's fairly safe to say, at least me, I think so. EOS is 567. I think the all-time high was like 22 or something like that. I can definitely see EOS doing a 4x. That's not in the realm of possibility. I think Stellar hit $1. Not impossible to hit again. Litecoin hit. This is kind of how I more or less gauge things. As far as like for futuristic prices, even like Cardano's 8 cents, and I think the highest it hit was $1.20. Like this is how I kind of gauge things, and especially if the people behind the coins are active, if they're in the news almost every day, every other day, even if it's something like negative, and they're on, on panels, on news talks, and they're talking about their coin and exactly where they think it's going to go, like they're active, this is definitely a good indication of like a healthy coin, a healthy project. This is why I don't see a lot of the coins going anywhere, simply because the people who are into these coins, who are created these coins, who are backing these coins, are constantly in the news to tell people about what they have. But as far as like for future things, I don't, let's say Bitcoin ends up hitting 20,000 again in, let's say even the end of this year. This is just like 1,000% hypothetical. Let's say Bitcoin ends up hitting 20,000 again. I don't think it's unbelievable that by 2020, another 18 months after that, that Bitcoin could hit 60,000. I see no logical reason why, with the hash rate going up, with the amount of people who are getting into Bitcoin, with the New York Stock Exchange, with the NASDAQ, with all these other stock exchanges around the world who are talking about getting into Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, the amount of extra rich people who are going to be buying fractions of Bitcoin, I don't see any reason why the mining difficulty, one, is going to continue to go up. 2020 is also going to be the reward being cut in half. I don't see it being illogical that Bitcoin could hit 60,000. Even this is still a 10x. 10x sounds crazy in traditional finance, but this is kind of how I look at things. Same exact thing with Ethereum. I don't see anything wrong with thinking that Ethereum could hit 2,300 if we hit 1,300 before the updates were on it. Doubling that price is definitely going to be there as well. If XRP hit 360 before XRapid got turned on, $10 is definitely possible. So I mean, when I talk about prices and stuff like that, I try not to. I'm not going to give you prices of what I think something is going to happen in 2030. For all we know, the internet could completely shut down. No one knows exactly what's going to happen in the future. It's impossible to say for anyone to say what they think is going to happen in the future. But this is kind of how I gauge future prices. I definitely look at the 2017 bull run up, because when we do have another bull run up, prices are definitely going to hit that mark again. And it's a matter of, at that point, it's like usage. Who's using your coin? Is your coin actually being used? Are you seen positively or negatively in the cryptocurrency space? It's the same exact thing if you've ever been into like stocks and bonds and stuff like that. The way that you would go into Yahoo Finance and like you're actually able to, I think also on Morningstar.com, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually read news about these cryptocurrency, my goodness, about actual companies who are into like stocks and bonds and stuff like that, who are selling their own stock to see exactly how the company is doing. This is why we have like someone created a couple of weeks ago, they like a fear gauge for the cryptocurrency markets, as in, if you're getting really good news, obviously people aren't afraid of your project and people are going to start moving forward. But the moment you get news like Bitcoin has been hacked, this has happened to XRP, like someone from Ethereum, they tried to burn their computer, like this is going to have a negative impact on the price. And this is kind of where things go. This is how you kind of gauge things. So this is how I at least come up with like price predictions. Like I said, I used to use websites before. Websites can be a bit insane. Like some of them, just the numbers they were throwing out were absolutely ridiculous. Previous videos, yes, I did, and I still do. I think once again, I am not a financial advisor, but I am more or less obsessed with real estate. I love the idea of not only having a secure place for me to live where I don't have to pay rent, but I love the idea of owning property around the world and even any city that I may be living in. I love the idea, even if I, buying studios and stuff like that. The way that I got started was, for those who don't know, I actually started out as like an eBay seller. So I used to sell anything and everything. I used to find like fur coats, like actual fur coats. They weren't damaged, and I used to buy them for 10, 15 euros and stuff like that, and I'd be able to resell them for $299, just to give you guys a rough estimate around that. I did it for around 2 years. I was also selling comic books. I was really into comics when I was a kid. I got into comics back again as I live in Europe, and I was selling comics to the States and stuff like that. And yeah, so after doing that for around 2 years, I was looking desperately for any type of what's it called? Like deals, I guess. I was looking for like emerging markets, if you will. I was looking at cheap property in Spain, cheap property in Greece as the economy was completely crumbling, in Italy, in Budapest. London and Paris were completely out because it was way too expensive. And I kind of got started by buying studios and stuff like that, and more or less kind of worked my way up. The money that I got from investing in the properties, I would then actually pushed into cryptocurrencies, or I would use to like buy a new couch or stuff like that when I was trying to rent out the place. And that's more or less kind of how I got started. When At a certain point in my crypto career, I do plan on selling some crypto. I don't think I would need like a huge incentive. Like I think if Bitcoin hits like 100 million, I'd probably be like, okay, I'll sell a Bitcoin. But as far as like at a certain point, not when we get like the next bull run up, not when, you know, we get like to the last all-time high, I think that would be foolish. I'm going to sell maybe at least like 20% of my holdings, simply because I want to get further into real estate. I want to create a mini empire. I don't know why I'm telling you guys that, but I guess that's kind of what it is. I firmly believe that everyone needs a place to live. People are always willing to pay for their rent so that they have a place to live. And yeah, I have no idea what it is. I just became obsessed with real estate. I love the idea of owning property. And I am definitely going to, I want to say that crypto is definitely like my doorway to be able to get further into the real estate market. Hope I answered your questions. Oh, and as far as suggestions, oh, sorry about that. Start slow. Like start, I don't know where you live. Depending if you, so the most advice that I can give is like, if you live in the States, try and find, popular yet underused places. And I mean, like, as far as like, if you live along the East Coast and you've heard of Myrtle Beach, like go to like Zillow.com and type, like, look for property in Myrtle Beach, and you'll be shocked at how cheap things are. And if you've ever gone to Myrtle Beach yourself, not only is it beautiful, it's not expensive, and it's a huge touristy spot, and people are willing to pay a pretty okay penny when it comes to renting out something. And you can buy like hotel rooms there. You can buy like condos there as well. You can buy like 2 or 3, 4 bedroom places, maybe 10 minutes away from the water. And people are always looking to rent these things out, even like in wintertime. Like winter is not that cold because it's in South Carolina. So start out small, like look for places like maybe even in Arizona. Like don't assume that you need to buy something large. One of my major mistakes when I got into, thought about getting into real estate investing was that I needed $1 million. I need $500,000 in order to be able to buy this, you know, condo that's across the street. I need to be able to buy this 4 or 5 bedroom something. You don't. You can simply, like, people live in studios. It's projected by the year, I think 2040. I think the majority of adults on earth will actually be living in studios. And this has to do with like social media, which I'm not going to get into. It has to do with like the disconnectedness. Like, you know, no one's really connected anymore. So people will be living more on their own. Don't assume that you have to buy something large because the people next to you bought something large. Like start out slow. You're going to be in a completely different place 10 years from now than where you think that you are. Don't let other people tell you what you should buy. If someone says that something is a good deal, make sure to dig deep, check about it. Like watch other YouTube videos with people who are also doing the exact same thing, like beginner investors in real estate. I wish I could point you to some names, but I can't at the moment. Do your research, watch videos, watch movies, watch documentaries about like people buying like bad houses and stuff like that. Learn as much as you possibly can. And I know, you know, not everyone has $150K to throw into something. Don't assume that you also have to buy a property with a mortgage. That's also something that a lot of people mistake. There was a woman, I can't remember her name for the life of me. She had videos on YouTube and she was talking about how she got into buying property in Philadelphia. And she said people kept on telling her, don't go to Philly. No, you know, like it's, for lack of a better word, it's too ghetto. Don't do it. And she was like, I don't understand why people were saying that. So she actually ended up finding a couple of places, not brownstones, but like, you know, like brownstones that were kind of like split and leveled. And she ended up buying like a couple of floors. She was buying them for like 15, 20,000. She was like, she couldn't believe that she had saved up a couple of years, like her retirement fund. She decided to throw a portion of it into real estate. And she said she found like really nice, tenants and stuff like that who were paying her like, I think $550 or like $600 at this point. This was a couple years ago in her videos. And she was like, they paid her. She said even if she had a mortgage, it would have been paid off in 2 years. And she was like, from there, the money after, you know, about 6 months of realizing that it was stable income, she was pushing that into other properties. And this is how she continued. And I don't know if she still even has her YouTube channel. She was like, now I have like 15 properties and I plan on doing that. And this was 2 or 3 years ago. So I can only imagine how far she's going to go. Don't let anyone bully you into buying something on credit or having to get a mortgage or saying that you need this massively large property. Start out slow, same way that I did. You'll be shocked, like I said, 10 years from now, exactly how many properties that you'll actually own and how much money that you're actually bringing in from that. Didn't I mean to spend that much time on that. I'm very passionate about real estate, so I really hope that I helped. But let's move on. This one says, first off, I wanted to tell you I watch all your videos. Thank you very much. You are one of the best crypto. Okay. Do you think it's possible that at some point the dollar might be backed by Bitcoin? I find it very interesting that the New York Stock Exchange is stating it could be a global currency. What do you think would be the outcome if it were ever to happen? If you're able to answer the question, that would be great. Either way, keep up the great content. So when it comes to, the idea is, I don't know if you, there's a couple of weeks ago, there was some like analysts from Switzerland. They were saying that they think that by the time that Bitcoin actually gets up to around $250,000, so around $250,000 per Bitcoin, it'll be enough to completely push the US dollar out of its ranking, like out of the space, i.e., that the economy will have gotten so bad that inflation will have gotten to a certain point in the world that enough money will have been pushed into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin that by $250,000 valuation per Bitcoin, that the US dollar would kind of have to take the knee, as it were, in response to Bitcoin and actually have to adopt Bitcoin itself. So the idea of a dollar backed by Bitcoin is kind of like not an oxymoron, but it's like if Bitcoin becomes so large, the dollar will have to cease to exist and they will have to simply adopt Bitcoin instead, if that kind of makes a bit more sense. I could see a country trying to create their own cryptocurrency or their own fiat currency. I could definitely see this happening. Fiat currency backed by Bitcoin. I could see in the future a couple of countries not really wanting to adopt the type of like digital anything or like a complete digital anything where they are reliant on Bitcoin. But I could definitely see that a country would create their fiat in line with Bitcoin and that they would only print money in relation to how much extra Bitcoin is actually created through the mining process on a daily basis, if that also makes a bit of sense. I don't think there will ever be a dollar-backed Bitcoin, but I could be mistaken. But as far as the theory goes, especially when you listen to like Andreas Antonopoulos and many other people talk about, not even just Andreas, like other people as well, the idea is that at some point with debt floating around the world in the trillions of dollars, that the world's economy will collapse. And the only true answer, or this is what they say, how people think about it, the answer will then be to put your money into cryptocurrencies because where we have governments now who are, their spending is out of control. Their printing of money is out of control. I know that a large portion of fiat money that is printed every year is actually destroyed if the dollars are damaged and stuff like that, and they print more, they say, in relation to it, but we know that they actually print in excess. This is why we have inflation in the first place. So when it comes down to all of that, if you can mathematically know how much Bitcoin is going to be created every day or every month or every year, simply through the mining process, as math does not lie, you would then just simply use crypto or other, even Ethereum, maybe even Litecoin, depending on which country that you're in, to simply have that be your currency as opposed to something that people just don't trust anymore. I hope that kind of makes a lot of sense. I feel like I zoned out at a certain point and was just like looking out my window and was just talking. But yeah, dollar-backed Bitcoin, don't think that's ever going to happen. The theory still is that by 2023, a lot of the world's economies will have collapsed and or fallen or will be broken in some way. And this is when we're going to start getting the first news of different countries around the world that they're actually potentially using Bitcoin as their country's currency. No one knows what's going to happen, but this is kind of the idea as Bitcoin continues to gain in popularity. Last one says, really enjoy your vids. Thank you very much. Do you think crypto will see another bear market of this size in the coming years? If so, what do you think might cause it? And would you try to cash out before it hits to capture some profits for when it picks back up eventually? I'm going to try and work backwards. As far as like cashing out, I have not cashed out yet, even with the crazy ups and downs. I'm more of a hunter-gatherer, if that makes a lot of sense. I just accumulate. I see the long-term future of crypto, so I have no intention of cashing out until I'll give you a number. By the time Bitcoin hits around, like, let's say 80,000 and other coins have followed suit and they're also up around that percentage of high, that's to give you an idea of the numbers, that's when I'll probably do my 20 to 25% of a cash out, if you will, simply because I think I'd be a fool unless I can buy property directly in crypto at that point. I'd like to have the mental security that I at least have something physical in the form of property. That's just kind of how I feel about the world. A bear market of this size, I think, myself personally, I think this bear market was coordinated. I think it happened on purpose. If governments hadn't all said at the beginning of January in sequence, one day after the other, that they either planned on banning crypto, heavily regulating it, or were trying to hamper or destroy Bitcoin. This happened like over a 4-week period. We had multiple countries every other day. I don't think the market would have dropped as much. I think we would have seen maybe about a 30-40% drop. I think things would have cooled off a tiny bit. Things would have continued to go sideways. And then all the hype that we had around like March, April, and May, and especially all the conferences that we had and all the good news that we got, I think would be a lot higher. The bear market that we have now, at least to me, is a result of companies like the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ trying to get into crypto. As they said, they were planning this for around 5 years of figuring out a way to get into the market. I think they accumulated. I think they sold off, crashed the market, and this is why we had the news from the other countries as well telling us that they plan on banning it. I think it was all coordinated to be able to push the prices down so that other people could get in. I think this bear market is artificial to a certain extent. I understand that Bitcoin rose a bit too high, but I don't think that 20,000 was an indication that the entire market, or rather the altcoins, had to fall between 75 to 90%. Will we see something like this in the coming years? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say when we do have another bear market, it will not be as large as this, simply because of the names that who are getting. If you paid attention to my other videos, I think one of them was like the future of Bitcoin, where I spoke about the future of Bitcoin and all these people in organizations and companies and enterprises who are getting into the cryptocurrency space, or more specifically into Bitcoin. I think the infrastructure is being built up in ways that we can't possibly begin to imagine. I think we will have another bear market, but I think we're going to have something in the lines of like a 20 to 30% drop. I don't see a 90% drop happening anytime soon, especially since all these major Wall Street people are definitely getting into the space. I hope that makes sense. I don't see this happening. I don't see a future, especially in 2019 or 2020, where the market just completely collapses, like everything completely loses its mind. We've had so much, I hate the word FUD, but fear that's been pushed into the cryptocurrency space throughout the entirety of this year. And this is why I said you have to understand that it's a little suspect that as crypto prices have collapsed, all the people who were talking about that they hated cryptocurrencies in January are now in the market. Everyone who hated crypto in 2017, they're all in the market. All these governments are now talking about using blockchain and incorporating cryptocurrencies and creating their own cryptocurrencies. This is a huge indication to me that not only, like I said, was everything coordinated, but I think they're trying to push prices and have tried to push it as low as possible to be able to get into the space. And this is why they're all into it, because they know that the profit's there to be made. And realistically, when they start making the profits and when cryptocurrencies do become a multi-trillion-dollar, I almost said company, market, I think they would be hard pressed to try and. Okay, I'll put it this way: the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ are, these are global markets, if you will, but they're still based in the United States. You need to deal in US dollars in order to be able to get into these markets. Crypto, we are so far removed from having to worry about the USD or the euro or the Australian dollar or the yen. Crypto is global. When you have a market that is not just the United States dealing in Bitcoin, or the United States dealing in Ethereum, or the Canada just dealing in XRP, and this is happening all around the world on multiple banks, you need a lot of selling pressure to be able to collapse a global market. Like, something fundamentally has to be wrong with that blockchain or that project for millions of people around the world to dump it at the exact same time. This is what I was telling you before about, like, when we get to like a multi-trillion-dollar market cap, you're going to need countries at a time will have to sell off their cryptocurrencies in order to be able to crash the price, because we're not dealing in people in Paris dealing in US dollars. We're not talking about people in Zimbabwe dealing in euros. We're talking about currencies that are global, that have penetrated the entire global market and are only expected to increase. As more people to continue to buy these assets and these coins, and more people are holding on to them and using them on a daily basis and using them with XRP and using them for their apps and dApps on Ethereum and EOS, in order to be able to achieve a bear market like this once again is going to be incredibly difficult. If so, what do you think the cause of another bear market might be? I I don't know. I honestly couldn't even try to put my finger on it. I don't know what would have to happen if we have hyper global adoption of cryptocurrencies. I can't foresee anything causing another 90% drop in the market. Like I don't see any actual, something would have to happen to blockchains at that point. It's not as anymore about spreading fear. Like you could have fear from Thailand, you could have fear from South Korea, you could have the US government talking about, oh my gosh, this is definitely happening. But with almost said Blitzcoin. With Bitcoin and blockchain, you can check the blockchains. You can check that everything is working. We have core members on these projects who are sitting around the world who you know, if a government tries to spread fear or create a tweet that says something negative is happening, we can have the core developers in a couple of minutes say, no, this is not happening. Check this on the blockchain. Check so and so and so. Someone else who's into coding. Check this. You would need, I don't know what would be able to cause it. The only thing that I could figure out by 2022, 2023, that would cause a bear market of any substantial amount would be if someone was, and I mean this in the most realistic way possible, is if someone was able to destroy Bitcoin's blockchain. Like if someone could go in, tear out the code, tear off all the side chains, and destroy transactions from 2009 to, let's say, 2018 and completely rip it apart, that would be a huge blow. That would tell everyone, okay, there's definitely a problem. If they can do it to that blockchain, they can definitely do it to ours. But as it stands right now, these blockchains are becoming so much stronger. Every single transaction they get, you know, there's more people around the world who are definitely doing this, and even more so, you know, you can't really. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's my answer for it. I think this bear market was coordinated. There's no the amount of people who've been getting into crypto this year alone, we should have had a 4x in the market. There's no way that all these people from Wall Street are entering cryptocurrencies and the market continues to go down. This is all definitely coordinated. And any type of bear market in the future that's going to be as extensive as this one, I do not see that. But like I said, at some point, when crypto gets too hot, at least in my eyes, and like I said, when we hit an XRP price of around like $35, I'm going to be like, hey, I like to buy a new 2-bedroom. Alrighty. That is definitely going to do it. It's really funny. I tried to keep the, what's it called? I try to keep the questions at a minimum. I keep getting more emails and I try to, you know, only answer a couple of questions. But they're very in-depth, and I like that you guys are sending in questions. I like that I am able to answer them, and I feel like it's another way to be able to, I want to say, like, connect. You know, because everyone always has these questions. We always have questions about the world. Like, I am heavily into crypto, but I still have my own questions. I'm still human. So I like that I am hopefully able to help you with some of the things that are going through your head. Hopefully I can help other people who are also having these questions as well in the cryptocurrency space. That is definitely, like I said, going to do it for this video. It is lunchtime. Hope you all have a great day, morning, afternoon, and or evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. Thank you once again for watching and or listening. I appreciate it more than you can begin to imagine. Thank you once again, and I'll talk to you all soon. See you.